Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. And on this week's episode, I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for being a listener. Thank you for sharing this podcast. Because of you listening and sharing the podcast with others, For the Love of Chiropractic is now in 85 countries and over 1,200 cities all around the world. And with this continued growth, on today's episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. Today, we're going to roll our sleeves up and look at your practice, the parts of the practice, the things that make it work, and maybe some of the things that don't make it work. So let's get started with today's show. Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. I've been in practice for over 30 years, and I continue to work in a $1 million practice that I built, ran, and sold. I've taught, lectured, and coached our profession, and helped so many chiropractors build the practice and the life of their dreams. And now, I want to help you do the same. So here's today's show. I just love that introduction. That's why we used it all during season 1. On today's show, we're going to spend time talking about the different parts of the practice, the things that make it work, the things that sometimes don't make it work, and how to make it work better. Specifically talking, when you think about your practice, you can break it down into two parts. Well, there's the clinical side and the business side. And yes, that's very true. You can break it down into the in-office procedures and the outside of the office procedures. And that's true also. You can break it down into patient care and administrative side. Well, and that's true as well. We're not going to be talking about the practice in any of those ways today, or, truth be told, we're going to be talking about the practice in all of those ways today. Because when we think about the practice, the way that we're going to break it down into two different parts is what I call the pillars of the practice and the interactions of the practice. And if you've listened closely to past episodes, you might be able to piece together what all of these things are. But here today, we're going to take those pieces and put them together so nicely in a way that you just can't ignore it, and you've got to improve the practice because of it. So as we get started today, we're going to first talk about the pillars of the practice. And sometimes we say there's 4 pillars of the practice because like a tabletop stands on 4 pillars that hold it up. Those 4 pillars are marketing, systems and procedures, philosophy, and headspace. And there's a specific order to those pillars that make them important because while they all relate to each other, they also stand independently. I want to talk about the most important one first and work our way through the list. A lot of people say that the most important piece of any chiropractic practice is the marketing because, as often as said, new patients, I need more new patients, is the battle cry of the chiropractic profession. And while new patients are the lifeblood of a practice, the marketing and acquisition of new patients isn't where it all starts. No, where it really starts is with your headspace. Headspace is the most important pillar of these 4. Again, they're all important, but when we talk about your headspace, what's really going on in between your own 2 ears? And I know from speaking to so many doctors over so many years, there's a whole fraction of the audience that I just lost, thinking that's not important, and you're trying to fast forward to get to the next part. And I'm going to say don't, because this is a piece that you may be missing. Your headspace, what you believe about the practice, what you believe about your patients, what you believe about chiropractic, it's all in your head. And by the way, as the great teacher Dr. Larry Markson said so many times, those are the 5 most important words. It's all in your head. Because anything that you think and believe, you can find justification for and prove that it's true. I also know if you look around hard enough, you can find examples and prove to yourself that that's not really true at all. Everything is only as easy or as difficult as you choose to make it, as you choose it to be. But your headspace, how you look at things, do you look at things with a positive attitude or with a negative grunch of an attitude? Because how you look at it changes how things will unfold. You may or may not believe that, but if you walk into a Starbucks with a rotten attitude and you order a coffee with a rotten attitude, the barista will do his or her best to be pleasant to you, but you certainly did not improve their day. But if you approach them with a positive attitude, because it's all in your head, they respond with a positive attitude, and then positivity leads to more positivity, leads to more positive things coming your way. That's just how the world works. So if you believe there aren't enough new patients out there, you're going to find lack and scarcity. If you believe that people aren't willing to show up, stay, pay, and refer, you're right, they're not gonna. On the other hand, if you've come to learn and know that people truly love and value your care, your practice grows. You feel good about it. There's a positive energy. There's a buzz. And that positive energy, when you put good things out there, you get good things back. This is old school success philosophy. This isn't just my opinion. It's the opinion of so many other success coaches that I have listened to, learned from, and read over so many years. People like Dale Carnegie, John DeMartini, Larry Markson, Danny Drubin, Dennis Waitley, Stephen Covey, Brett Axelrod, Guy Reekman. All of these people have written books, spoken in public, recorded multitude pieces of information that all talk about it all starts in your head with your attitude, and what you bring forward, you move forward and you get more of. And if you've decided that you want to get your headspace right, I have 3 different books that I recommend. These are the books that I recommend to people all the time when I'm talking about headspace, when somebody wants to get on the success train to a bigger, better practice, and frankly, a bigger, better life. The number 1 book that I have everybody start with is a book called Acres of Diamonds. It's written by Russell Conwell. It's an inspiring book about opportunity. There's a small version of it. The whole book is, it's about 60 pages. I like the copy that was put out by Hallmark in the 1960s. You pick them up on eBay for about $10. It is well worth it. The second book that I love is written by my dear friend and mentor, Dr. Larry Markson. It's called Talking to Yourself is Not Crazy. And while Acres of Diamonds is a sit down and read it cover to cover, Dr. Markson's book, Talking to Yourself is Not Crazy, is more a series of vignettes. You read every 2 to 5 pages, and each one stands on its own and starts to turn your thinking around, getting your mind right into the success philosophy the way that it needs to be. And my favorite book of all time when it comes to headspace, getting your mind right, and really getting the winning attitude was written by Dr. Dennis Waitley. And the book is called The Psychology of Winning, 10 Qualities of a Total Winner. Now, to me, headspace is the most important, as we've just talked about. Headspace is a bright, shiny side of the coin that's got to be in the right place, with the right mindset, with the right heart values, in order to have a fantastic practice and life. What's on the other side of that same coin? The other side of that coin is philosophy. Your chiropractic philosophy, your healthcare philosophy. If someone asked you what your approach to health is, what are you going to say? You know, there's lots and lots of chiropractors who say things like, well, I'm anti-drug and surgery. Well, and that's okay, but you haven't said what you're for, what you're in favor of, what you're trying to move forward, other than you're against drugs and surgery. Now, personally, my philosophy is I want to help as many people as I possibly can with great chiropractic care, great holistic chiropractic care, so that their body is working as close to 100% as possible, as much of the time as is possible. But what's yours? When you think about your chiropractic philosophy, why did you become a chiropractor? I know some docs who say, oh, I became a chiropractor because it seemed like something that I could do that was pretty easy. I could make a lot of money. The chiropractor that I knew seemed to like being a doc, so I thought I would do it also. And all those things are fine. You know, maybe you were going to be an engineer or an architect, and, you know, someone found you along the way and said you should be a chiropractor, so you started looking into it. That's all fine. But now you are a doctor of chiropractic. You're a chiropractic physician. So my question is, what is your philosophy of practice? What is it you're trying to do? What's your purpose? Is it to relieve pain and suffering? And that's fine. If that's your sole purpose as a chiropractor, I think you have an obligation to relieve pain and suffering as fast as possible. And frankly, nothing works faster than telling somebody to take a couple ibuprofen. But is that really chiropractic care? Is that providing great holistic care? Does the ibuprofen really get the body working the way that it's supposed to be? Is your goal to get the body working naturally the way it should be? Or is it just to relieve pain and suffering? That's not my decision to make, that's yours. But what do you say to yourself? What do you say to your patients when you sit down with them doing a report of findings? That's your chiropractic philosophy. If you were out of town and somebody mentioned that they were having a neck pain, a shoulder pain, a back pain, some other problem, headaches, and you happen to get into conversation with them, maybe it was a waitress at a restaurant while you're out of town at a seminar. Okay. And she says, oh, I'm really sorry, I have a terrible headache. What do you say to her? Have you ever seen a chiropractor? Did you know that chiropractic can get rid of headaches often? Now, maybe you're taking a history with her. Maybe you're going to recommend her to a chiropractor that you know in town. Maybe you're going to tell her to go find a good chiropractor. But are you going to tell her anything at all? What's your philosophy? You know, if you happen to be in a store and you see a cashier wearing a neck brace, a wrist brace, an elbow brace, do you ask them about it? Do you recommend that they see somebody? Or do you wait for them to say something like, oh yeah, I'm taking painkillers and a muscle relaxer? How does that make you feel? When someone says that's what I'm doing for it, do you at least tell them that there's a better option? Because I think you know there are better options than just taking the pills. So those are the first two pillars. I've called them sides of a coin also. Your headspace and your philosophy. And all of that is in the space between your two ears. It has nothing to do with the office space, the real estate that you're paying tax on or that you own or you rent. But now we're going to talk about the other side of it, the clinical side. Because when we talk about the practice, once we have our headspace and philosophy set up correctly, we need to spend some time discussing the systems and procedures that run the office and the marketing so the community knows we're there, so that people do indeed want to come in and see us and utilize our services so we can help to change the world and make it a better place. Let's talk about the systems and procedures piece first. So, regarding systems and procedures, everything that happens in your office should have a system and a procedure behind it. In fact, what I have seen over decades of practice and taught to countless chiropractors is when a fire comes up, and I don't literally mean a fire, but when something happens in the office that creates total chaos, there's a two-step process that needs to occur. Number one, let's put the fire out. Okay, let's figure it out. Let's sort it out. Let's get this handled right now as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, once the fire has been put out, maybe it's later that day, maybe it's later that evening, maybe it's the next day. But there needs to be a conversation between yourself and the other people involved. Maybe it's an office manager, maybe it's a front desk person, maybe it's a floor CA, maybe it's the entire team. There needs to be a conversation of, okay, what happened? What the hell happened? And what procedures, what systems can we put in place so that never happens again? So maybe it's something as simple as somebody shows up in the office who hasn't been there in a while, and your staff just sends them straight back to an adjusting room to get adjusted. And you walk in and you say hi to the person, recognizing they have not been there in quite a while. And you say, so what's been going on? And they say, oh, I was in a car accident yesterday. Stop the presses. Or maybe they say, I fell down a flight of steps. Stop the presses. What's the procedure? Well, at that moment, have them fill out some new paperwork, get them the exam that they need, the history that may go with it, any imaging that may need to happen, and get them taken care of. What's the follow-up? Later that day, when things quiet down, conversation with the office manager, the front desk person. Okay, did this person call to set up an appointment, or did they just walk in? Now, personally, I don't believe in walk-ins. I don't think chiropractic offices should be a walk-in clinic. I think people should have appointments. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody can call when they're 2 minutes away and say, hey, I'm on my way in. If they did indeed call, the question, very simply, is when was the last time you saw the doctor? Oh, I've been a patient there forever. I'm sure I was just there a week or two ago, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month. The person looks it up, no problem. They've been there before. Whoever took the phone call puts them on the schedule, looks it up, and sees that it's been a significant amount of time. Maybe it's 30, 60, or 90 days. Do you want to get some updated information? Does that count as a reactivation in your office? Okay, so as soon as they walk in, maybe there's one simple subjective page they need to fill out. Okay, and that page asks about their symptomatology, how they've been doing, anything new or different going on. A quick review of that page by one of the staff members or even the doctor says what has to happen next. Personally, I like to review those things myself because I know the person, and if they say, I started waking up with headaches yesterday and this has been an ongoing problem for decades, no problem. I can take the history that I need to, I can do the mini exam right in the adjusting room and move forward. If it's not that simple, they were in a car accident or they just started with headaches, I'm just using that as an example. As soon as I review that, you know what? It's clear to me they're going to need a full history. They're going to need a full examination. They may need some imaging. Okay. So you can tell the staff, put the person in my office for a history, put the person in the exam room. Again, where do they need to be so that the office can continue to flow properly, helping people so no one gets hiccup with a long wait. And I have known doctors who say things like, but there's always new fires to put out. You can't solve all of the problems. So there's always new fires to put out and new issues. What I can tell you from experience is the vast majority of them, once they're solved and the staff understands the procedure, it doesn't keep occurring. Sure, something new will come up because you know what? We all have new technology that gets integrated all the time, and new technology may create new issues also, but that's okay. Identify the problem, put the problem to rest, create a system and a procedure that solves it so it doesn't keep happening. And this systems and procedure piece is true for every aspect of practice. From opening the office in the morning, the trash was left in the office overnight. Okay, create a system and procedure. To a patient issue, to getting the bills paid, anything and everything, create a system and procedure, fix it, done, handled. This is how we do this. The most successful practices have an operations manual. This is how stuff gets done. The last thing we're going to talk about today is marketing. There's an entire episode back earlier in the catalog talking about the different ways to do marketing for a practice. You can do one-on-one, like spinal screenings. You can do 1-on-10, what I call lunch and learns. You can do 1-on-100 or 100,000, which is social media. All of them work. They all need to be done properly. There are right ways to do it and wrong ways to do it. And we don't unfortunately have the time today to go into each one of these. But as I said, there's a previous episode talking about it. And my best advice, other than listening to these episodes, is to find another doctor who's doing it successfully and learn from them. It's probably not the doc right down the street because you know how we can be. A lot of chiropractors think of each other as competitors when the truth is we're actually colleagues. So find someone who's not too close to your office that seems to be doing things really, really well, and then you can learn from them. I'm not a huge fan of simply looking on social media to see what everybody else is doing, because as a previous guest from just a few weeks ago talked about, most of that is just noise and doesn't get a lot of traction. There are some very effective ways to do social media marketing. And by listening to some of the episodes from earlier this year, of the last month or two, all that information is there as well. I encourage you, if everything else is in place, your headspace, your philosophy, the systems and procedures, then it's time to step up the marketing and go help more people be as healthy as they possibly can. On next week's show, we're going to talk about the 5 interactions of how you can have the best practice and be the best for your patients. All right, and that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at theloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.